In today's video, I'll be showing you how to build an automatic polished rose quartz farm using the Create mod. And you will also be needing an add-on called Create Ultimate Factory, which I'll leave a link to in the description. But this farm will make 900 polished rose quartz every hour, while only costing 17,920 stress units. For this build, we'll need a 15 by 11 block foundation. So these top 4 rows of items are all the items we'll be needing in today's video, as well as these other 3 lava buckets here, and a threshold switch and repeater. And these 7 here on the bottom are just going to be filters, and then we'll also need fluid pipes, a wrench, and then a way to polish your rose quartz. A few of the items on this list will vary depending on which way you use to actually make the polished rose quartz. Oh, and depending on how far away your lava source is, you will need some mechanical pumps. So there are a few different ways we can polish our rose quartz. The first is to use a deployer to deploy sandpaper onto the rose quartz. But the problem with that is that sandpaper only has 8 uses before it's broken, which means that since we're making 900 polished rose quartz every hour, we're going to need 113 sandpaper an hour. And to get that amount of sand is easy, and I guess the sugar cane isn't that difficult either, but that's just a lot of sandpaper. And obviously you can do this same thing with your hands, but I doubt you want to polish rose quartz 900 times an hour. So the other option is from a mod called Create Dragons Plus, and I'll leave links in the description to the mods. But basically, Create Dragons Plus allows you to put sand in front of a encased fan to polish the rose quartz. But this does require a fan sanding catalyst, which is from Create Connected, but it does get the job done if you wanted to do it like that. And another option is you can use the mechanical grindstones from Create Enchantment Industry. So there is also a mod called Create Vintage Improvements, which I was not able to get to work in my mod pack. But basically in Vintage Improvements, it has a sandpaper belt, which costs like 8 sandpaper, but it's infinite. So you can just put your rose quartz on that, give the belt a spin, and it will automatically polish your rose quartz for you. And if you know of any other mods that you can polish rose quartz with, go ahead and leave a comment down below. And to get the rose quartz, there's 2 things we need. The first is nether quartz and the second is redstone dust. And to get nether quartz, we can actually bulk wash soul sand. And to get that, we can bulk haunt sand. And to get sand, we crush gravel. And to get gravel, we crush cobblestone. But to get redstone, we'll be using this recipe from Create Ultimate Factory, which allows us to mix netherrack, flint, and lava together. To get netherrack, we'll be bulk haunting basalt, which we can get from a basalt generator. To get the flint, we'll be using the flint that we get from crushing our gravel into sand, since we already need that, but we won't get quite enough flint, so we'll also be just milling gravel into flint, and that will get us enough. And to get the lava, we'll be using a hose pulley, which you can drain lava from a source of lava with. And I'll show you how to make that source infinite once we get to that. So on the side that's 15 blocks long, we'll leave 3 blocks from the edge and place out 6 shafts like this. Nope, not like that. And connect them with a belt. Here we'll place 2 vertical gearboxes, and this is where our crushing wheels will go. Then we'll place down another vertical gearbox with a millstone on top, 1 block to the side, a mechanical drill here, 1 piece of cobblestone in front, as well as copycat panels around the sides like this. And we'll need 4 copycat panels up here to contain the lava, which we'll place in like that. Then we'll waterlog our drill, place an output brass funnel here so the millstone has a place to output from. And this is what we'll be getting our sand, as well as a little bit of flint. Then we'll place down a vertical gearbox like this, with a millstone on top, a temporary block with another millstone, and break that temporary block and replace it with an output andesite funnel. And to connect these two together, we'll place a cogwheel, a shaft, and another cogwheel. Then we'll need a piece of cobblestone here with a mechanical drill to the side of it, as well as a few copycat panels around to keep the liquids from flowing out. And then we'll need to do that up here as well for that lava. And while we're here, we might as well place the lava first and then place the panel. Then we'll place up 3 encased chain drives here and another separate 3 encased chain drives to connect up. Okay, as I was saying, another 3 encased chain drives like this to connect up these 2 drills. Then we can place another output funnel here to output to the belt. And even from these 2 drills, we'll still not get enough flint, so we'll need to place down 3 more encased chain drives like this, a mechanical drill on the front of this one, as well as a piece of cobblestone in front of that drill. Then we'll need a couple of copycat panels on the side, like this, as well as some on the top to keep that lava from flowing out, just like this. Then we'll put down our lava, and of course our water. Oh, and we'll also need to place copycat panels underneath the drills as well, otherwise this water is going to flow out everywhere. Or I guess you could also use a full block if you wanted. Then we'll need our millstone with its output funnel and another millstone below it with its output funnel onto the belt. Then we'll place a vertical gearbox here with a cogwheel, a shaft, and another cogwheel so we can connect up these millstones together. And now what we should be getting on this belt is the millstone outputs the gravel here, which gets crushed into sand, flint, and clay balls, which we'll actually just get rid of since we don't need them. And then we also have these 2 drill setups here, making our extra flint that we'll need. And this means that our next step will actually be haunting our sand into soul sand, which means that we'll need to place a soul campfire on the end of this belt with an encased fan behind it like this, as well as 3 encased chain drives here, and we'll place a cogwheel on top of this one, which will connect it to this millstone and this millstone. And we don't want this soul sand to fly off the belt, so we'll place down a couple of copycat panels like this. Then we'll place down a 3 block long item vault here. And to input the items, we'll place a brass funnel inputting here. And we'll need to set a list filter to only allow in soul sand, flint, clay balls, and netherrack. And if you recall, we'll also be needing to bulk hunt basalt into netherrack, so we'll just do that at the same spot here. And then we can also place a brass funnel like this, which we can set to output our clay balls. Then we can place a temporary block here with a few copycat panels around. Then we place the lava there. Or instead of just putting a clay ball in this brass funnel so it outputs the clay balls all the time, what we can do is actually put down a piece of redstone dust and a threshold switch to look in that vault. And what this will do is it'll allow us to empty out items whenever this vault gets too full, since we will be making more netherrack than we will flint, which means that this vault will just fill up over time. So what we can do is set this threshold switch to stacks, then set this to 59 on the bottom and 60 at the top. Or if you want, you could do 59 and 58. In my opinion, you should go with 58 and 59. And then we'll also hit this invert signal button. And now what will happen is if this vault has 58 or less stacks of items in it, that brass funnel is not going to output. But once it gets 59 or more, it's going to start outputting from that brass funnel. And we'll also need a list filter on it. We'll want it to output clay balls. That's the very first thing we'll want. The next thing we'll want it to output is the netherrack. And the last thing we'll want it to output is the flint. Make sure this is set to allow list, and then we click done and we set it on our brass funnel. Now we'll need to take our soul sand and wash it. And what we can actually do is place down 2 copycat panels like this with an output brass funnel filter to output our soul sand. And then we can place a water bucket here. So now not only does this encased fan haunt our sand and basalt, but it will also wash our soul sand. And once this soul sand gets washed, we'll need a place to input it, which we'll put here as a 3x3x1 item vault. and we'll put an input brass funnel, and we'll give it a list filter to only allow in gold, nuggets, and nether quartz. And now that we're getting our nether quartz into this vault, we'll need to get a way to make our netherrack and flint and lava into redstone dust. So now we'll need to place down 2 basins here with mixers above, and we'll filter these to only make redstone dust. To actually get everything we need into this basin, it'll be a bit weird. So since we'll be needing lava, netherrack, and flint, we'll obviously need to place our fluid pipes, but we'll actually place them on top, and we'll go down and bring our fluid pipes below here. They should go down to this block, and then we'll also break out these blocks as well. So we'll place our brass funnel to output here, and another one to output here. This one is where we'll output our flint, and the other one is going to output our netherrack. And we'll input our items from these andesite funnels, where we'll also need to break out behind here, place down 3 shafts like this, as well as another shaft like this, and then we'll connect up these 2 shafts with a belt. We'll also place down another shaft here, and we'll connect up this shaft to this shaft with a belt. And since we connected these shafts together, we'll have both of these belts spinning in the same direction, which is what we want. But we'll also need to dig underneath these basins, where we'll place down another mechanical belt below, as well as 2 brass funnels filtered to only output redstone dust. And we'll also need another diagonal belt like this, and this will bring our redstone dust up to this level. We'll also need to connect up these 2 belts together, and you might be thinking, well, that's as simple as just doing this. So now they're connected, but we'll also need to get this belt power to power this one. So we'll need another encased chain drive like that. And we can go ahead and place another encased chain drive to connect this belt up to this drive, since we need these to go the same direction. Then we'll place our mixer and basin here, and we'll need to break out these 4 blocks and place a mechanical belt like that with our input andesite funnel to input the redstone into that basin. Then we'll also place an output brass funnel here, and we'll set the recipe filter of the basin to rose quartz, and we'll set this brass funnel to only output rose quartz as well. And if you're wondering why I made this belt 4 blocks long and not just 2, is because we can actually place a gearbox here and get this belt spinning the correct direction. And you might also know that these belts are only connected to each other, they're not connected to this main belt, which means that we'll also need to dig out under here, and then we should be able to see that under this part of the belt here, we have this encased chain drive, which will place a gearbox and a shaft to. Then we can bring an encased chain drive from that shaft up to this belt and cover this back up. So now all of these belts will be connected to this main belt. And then we'll of course need our quartz to go into this basin, so we'll break out these 4 blocks. Place down 3 shafts like this, connect these up with a belt, and since these 2 shafts are touching, they will connect up to each other and get this belt to spin. And then we'll have this belt output specifically rose quartz, since we will have gold nuggets going into this vault as well. Oh yeah, and we can't forget the andesite funnel to input the items. So to connect up these 3 mixers to power, we'll actually place down our last 4 cogwheels like this, with 2 encased chain drives and a shaft, and that will get all of these connected up to the main belt. If you want to store your polished rose quartz before turning it into electron tubes, we can actually place a 3x3x2 block vault here. So I was editing this video and realized that I put this vault in the wrong spot and forgot to record putting in the correct spot. So what I did is I put this vault here, which is 1 block to this side of the other vault, when I really meant to put it over like this, so that it was on this side of the vault instead of this side. Now back to the regular video. with an output brass funnel, a chute, and a double chest. And this is only for if you want to be able to easily access your polished rose quartz. If you're just going to turn it into electron tubes, you can just bring a belt out instead. So now there are two things we need to do before actually getting to polishing this rose quartz. The first is making our basalt generator, and the other is getting our infinite lava source. So to make this little basalt generator, we'll go 2 blocks from this side and 3 from this side. Then we'll place down our 6 pieces of soul soil, and we'll basically just surround all of this in blocks, except for we'll leave this block open here because we'll actually need to place down a rail, cart assembler, and mine cart there. Then we can place our blue ice on this side. We'll place down 6 item vaults here. Then we can place up a couple blocks of glass above like this. We'll place 6 input andesite funnels on the vaults, and then we'll place lava above. And now what'll happen is we'll have these item vaults picked up just long enough to where this generator can make the basalt. Then these andesite funnels will drop down onto that basalt, destroying it and putting it into this vault. However, occasionally there will be some basalt that escapes, which means that we'll actually need to dig out around this entire area here so we can have space to put some belts. So first we'll place a gearbox here with a belt going over to this block. Then we'll place another belt going all the way over to here with another belt going over like that with a gearbox here, and connected to that gearbox another belt all the way over to here, and one last gearbox like that. Then we can place out a bunch of copycat panels, and we'll basically just want to surround all of this belt stuff here. And it might even benefit you to do a double layer of copycat panels. So if you want to be extra careful, you can just do that. So we'll go around placing copycat panels all the way over like that. And we'll also need a portable storage interface here facing up. And we'll also need to go up to the top here and super glue from that andesite funnel all the way over to this item vault, as well as from this item vault to this portable storage interface. They'll need 2 blocks in between, another interface, a 3 block long item vault, an input andesite funnel, and an output brass funnel. Then we'll break out these 2 blocks. We'll also need to break out these 2 panels, place an item vault here, break out this panel, place an andesite funnel, place an output brass funnel here with an input andesite funnel there. So now if any basalt escapes this little encasing here, it will drop onto the belts and get carried over to this vault, which will output it into this vault. And from here we'll place a output brass funnel there, which will output all of the basalt into this place to be haunted. And now we'll need to give this cart assembler power in a specific time so it knows when to turn on and off. So we'll actually need to place down a redstone link on the block below the assembler. This one will set to receiver by right clicking on it with a wrench. And you can set this to any frequency you want. And we can actually place a block here with a pulse extender and a pulse timer here, and just right click on this pulse timer temporarily, and we'll also do the same with the pulse extender. Now this pulse extender should be off most of the time but temporarily get turned on, and we'll actually want to set this pulse extender to 10 ticks, which you do by holding right click on that box and just setting it to 10 ticks. And then we'll want to set this one to 40 ticks. And once you have these 2 set up, we can place down our redstone link with the same frequency. And now what should happen is whenever we right click this pulse timer, this should be picked up, except for it's not being picked up. So I accidentally put the redstone link in the wrong spot. So what we'll instead need to do is pick this up, place it under this block instead and give it that frequency. And then it should start working. And as we can see, it is getting picked up. These portable storage interfaces are working, which is great. And you may need to play around with how fast the pulse timer goes. So just keep bringing that number up until the basalt is actually generated. So at 42 ticks, it seems to be working pretty well. And then we can go ahead and click this pulse timer to turn it off until we actually need it on. But now we'll need an infinite lava source, and to do that we'll need a pretty big area. We'll need it to have 10,000 block volume to be exact. So what we can do is basically just build out like a 40 block long area. This can be any size you want as long as the inside of it is 100,000 blocks in volume. We come all the way back over here. So I'll make mine a 40 by 40, and obviously you can do this in survival, but I'm not going to do it in survival because that would take a long time, so I'm just gonna use world edit to do it. So with this I should only need 6 layers, or 7 layers rather. So I'll go ahead and put in our walls, and instead of filling up 10,000 buckets of lava, what you can do instead is actually fill up this top layer with lava just like this, and then we can go ahead and break the layer below it and then just let that lava flow down. And once that gets to the bottom, it will count this as an infinite pool of lava for a hose pulley. And then we can bring a hose pulley like this. We'll need to give it some rotational power and let it go all the way down to the bottom of your pool. Once it does that, you can connect up a fluid pipe just like that. And then we'll also need a pump so we can actually pump it into these basins. And each fluid pump can pump liquids through a pipe up to 15 blocks away. Then we place our pump there, and we can see that that is pulling lava. And if we go over here, we can see that both of these basins are filled. And if it's more than 15 blocks, you will need to add another pump. As you can see, none of this lava is actually being pulled, which means that this source is infinite, which is exactly what we want. So we'll actually want to temporarily break out this chest here, break under this, place our last andesite funnel under here, and then place a water bucket like that. And that's not how you place the chest back. Yeah, but we can place the chest now, and we'll need a belt that is 3 blocks long, and we can actually pretty easily connect it up with 2 cogwheels, break out this, place a vertical gearbox and 2 shafts, and we also may need to place another vertical gearbox in between the cogwheels. It just depends on which way they spin. So the way we can do this with the base create mod is to actually pick up this water and place it here instead. Then we'll put a deployer there. We'll give it some kind of chute with like a belt or something of the sort above it so that you have a way to input those sandpapers. Then to power it, we can break out this block and place up 3 encased chain drives. And as long as you have a steady flow of sandpaper, this whole thing should function properly. However, that's not the only way we can do it, because there are a few other ways we can do it without the base create mod. If you don't want to make that sandpaper farm, what you can do instead is place back this water here, place an item drain with a mechanical grindstone above, and this is for if you have create enchantment industry, and we can connect up this grindstone drain's little shaft here to this belt with 2 encased chain drives. And if this shaft is not on this side, you can just right click it with a wrench in your hand on the top face until it gives you that shaft on this side, and then you can connect it. And to power this top one, we'll actually need to spin the opposite direction. And to do that, we'll place a vertical gearbox here with 2 shafts here and another gearbox. And if yours is spinning the wrong way, you may just need to add another gearbox here. Or if the belt and this are spinning the wrong way, you only need to add 1 here. But if the belt is spinning the wrong way and this is spinning the correct way, you will need a gearbox here and here. But otherwise, this should get us the correct direction of rotation. Finally, I didn't get create vintage improvements to work, but create vintage improvements is actually pretty similar to using this grindstone drain. You just make your sandpaper belt or whatever it's called. I think it's like grinder belt. And then you just place it here. And then you should be able to connect it up to this belt to get the correct direction of rotation. Although it's possible that it might require the other direction, in which case you'll need to bring this encased chain drive like this and just connect these two together with an encased chain drive, and that should get your sand belt grinder working. But for testing this build, I'll just go with the mechanical grindstones. But also, if you know of another way to polish rose quartz, you can just use that. But now everything should be just about done. So this build is going to make 900 polished rose quartz every hour at the cost of 17,920 stress units. And you should be able to connect this build up from anywhere. So just pick a spot that is easy for you to do and then just connect it there. And if you don't already have 256 RPM, you may want to get a speed controller. To power this whole system, you could either use a level 2 steam engine, 35 large water wheels, 70 regular water wheels, or a windmill bearing with this amount of windmill sails, which is 280. And you want to make sure you do them in multiples of 8 because each windmill sail gives you 64 stress units, but they only work in groups of 8. So if you have 8 of them, that'll give you 512 stress units. But if you have 9, it'll still give you 512. And the next time it'll change up is at 16 windmill sails to go to 1024 stress units. So you will need to split this amongst 3 different windmill bearings because each can only hold up to 128 windmill sails before adding more just does nothing at all. Or you can just connect it to a pre-existing power source that you already have. And once you have figured out what you want to power it with, we can go ahead and start this whole system up and see if it starts working. So we can see that this belt is spinning backwards, which means we'll need to add another gearbox like that. But now we should be able to see gravel going onto this belt getting crushed. Oh, and we'll also want to click this pulse timer again so that this starts making the basalt we need. Yeah, we can see soul sand being haunted, basalt being haunted, and we should have flint and lava going in. Yep. And we'll get nether quartz in this vault soon, or rather we already have nether quartz, it's just going into the basin. And we have netherrack in there, but oh, this isn't working because of this redstone. That's okay. So we actually need to replace this little redstone wire here with a repeater. That way it doesn't power on that netherrack funnel. Oh, now we can see redstone being made and rose quartz is also being made, getting polished and going into this chest. And once this whole system starts up and gets enough resources, we should see that it starts making 1 piece of polished rose quartz every 4 seconds. Oh, I also forgot to connect this belt up to power, and to fix that we can place a vertical gearbox here and a gearbox. So now any of the excess basalt that falls out should just get put onto that belt. And already 20 polished rose quartz. So that should just about be it for this farm. And the amount of stress that this whole system uses may vary depending on what way you're using to polish your rose quartz. So it's only 17,920 stress units if you're using these 2 mechanical grindstones. If you're using a deployer, it should cost half the stress units that these grindstones cost. If you're using an encased fan that's bulk sanding it, it should cost a quarter of what these grindstones do. And we can see that it is making the rose quartz about every 4 seconds. This is the finished build. Don't forget to leave a comment down below with what you'd like to see in the next video. And while you're down there, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button. Share this video with any of your friends who might be interested in building this tutorial. And you can also click on that playlist you see on screen to go to all of my other Create Mod farm tutorials to see if any of those look like ones you would want to make in your world. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.